Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Ballabha Giridharadhari Gopijana Ballabha Giridharadhari Sodanandana Vraja Janarandana Yasodanandana Vraja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radha, Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Nitai Gaura Haribo Haribo Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo. Shri Krishna Balaram Bhagavan ki jai, Shri Gauranitai ki jai, Gaura Premanandi. Which one? Oh.
Number 10, Maharaj.
Number 10?
Yes. Put this up.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Oh, very clever. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhgavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17, Text 10? Text 10. Okay. All right. Ityatadvirya virushi, ityatadvirya virushi, bruvane bhavasobanam, rushaha devi drishtaya, nijitatma bhimanine, ityatadvirya virushi, Bruvane Bhavasobanam Rushaha Devi Drishtaya Nijitatma Bhimanine Idyatadvirya Vidushi Bruvane Bhavya Shobhanam Rushaha Devi Drishtaya Nijitatma Bhimanine. Someone else? Vaishnavis? Word for word. Iti. Thus. Atat virya vidushi. When Chitraketu, who did not know the prowess of Lord Shiva, Bruvane spoke, Bahu Asobanam, that which is not up to the standard of etiquette, the criticism of the exalted Lord Shiva. Rusha, with anger. Aha, said. Devi, the goddess Parvati. Drishtaya, unto Chitraketu, who was quite shameless. Nijita Atma, as one who has controlled his senses. Abhimanine, thinking of himself. Translation. Not knowing the prowess of Lord Shiva and Parvati, Chitraketu strongly criticized them. His statements were not at all pleasing, and therefore the goddess Parvati, being very angry, spoke as follows to Chitraketu, who thought himself better than Lord Shiva in controlling the senses. Translation, please repeat. Not knowing the prowess of Lord Shiva and Parvati, Chitraketu strongly criticized them. His statements were not at all pleasing. And therefore the goddess Parvati, being very angry, spoke as follows to Chitraketu, who thought himself better than Lord Shiva in controlling the senses. Purport. Although Chitraketu never meant to insult Lord Shiva, he should not have criticized the Lord, even though the Lord was transgressing social customs. It is said, Tejiyasam na doshaya, one who is very powerful should be understood to be faultless. For example, one should not find faults with the sun although it evaporates urine from the street. The most powerful cannot be criticized by an ordinary man, or even by a great personality. Chitraketu should have known that Lord Shiva, although sitting in that way, was not to be criticized. The difficulty was that Chitraketu, having become a great devotee of Lord Vishnu, Sankarshan, was somewhat proud of having achieved Lord Sankarshan's favor, and therefore thought that he could now criticize anyone, even Lord Shiva. This kind of pride in a devotee is never tolerated. A Vaishnava should always remain very humble and meek and offer respects to others. Srinadapi sunichena tarorapi suishnana amanina manadina kirtaniya sadahari. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. A Vaishnava should not try to minimize anyone else's position. It is better to remain humble and meek and chant the Hare Krishna mantra. The word Nijitatma Bhimanine indicates that Chitraketu thought himself a better controller of the senses than Lord Shiva, although actually he was not. Because of all these considerations, Mother Parvati was somewhat angry at Chitraketu. Jai. It yatad viryavidushi bruvane bhavyashobhanam rushaha devi drishtaya nijitatma bhimanine. Not knowing the prowess of Lord Shiva and Parvati, Chitraketu strongly criticized them. His statements were not at all pleasing, and therefore the goddess Parvati, being very angry, spoke as follows to Chitraketu, who thought himself better than Lord Shiva in controlling the senses. So this is a very famous story, of course, from the Srimad Bhgavatam, and you've been reading already. King Chitraketu was traveling in the outer space on a brilliantly effulgent aeroplane given to him by Lord Vishnu. He saw Lord Shiva surrounded by siddhas and charanas, and he was sitting in the great assembly. Here there were siddhas and charanas. As Lord Shiva was sitting in an assembly of great saintly persons and embracing Parvati on his lap with his arm, Chitraketu laughed loudly and spoke within the hearing of Parvati. Oh, okay. So it's very nice. So many instructions here in this section of the Srimad Bhgavatam. Now, somehow or other, Maharaj Chitraketu, after suffering the death of his son at a very young age, we know the story goes back, that he couldn't have any children. So he married one wife after the other wife after the other wife. He was the king, and practically married all the ladies of the kingdom. He married so many, but none of them could have any children. There's some position, who knows, from the past, maybe from the king's side. Sounds like from the king's side, maybe from the lady's side also. But he couldn't have any children. So generally, when someone's in a position like that, due to past activities, they're not meant to have any children in this life, or they're meant to have children, or so many things can be there from the karma from the former life. So maybe Maharaj Chitraketu was like that. It doesn't say exactly here in the Bhagavatam, but generally speaking, that's the principle, generally speaking. So now, later on, now, of course, he was blessed by Narad Muni, and was it Angira Muni, was it? Angira, huh? Yeah. Angira Muni, they came and they came before, and the king begged them to allow him to have a child. So they said that, yes, we will give you this blessing, but it is this child will be the source of your sukha, and also the source of your dukkha, is the source of your happiness, and also the source of your suffering. So the king had a child by the arrangement of Narad and Angira, and the baby came. And so the king was so happy, the wife was so happy, the queen was very happy. But he had so many other queens that they became jealous. So now he'll neglect us. He'll neglect us. When one is married to a wife, she doesn't like to be neglected. And of course, if you're married to many wives, it's more harder to give attention to all of them. And one has to be in the proper position. Generally, the principle is that, in the Muslim society and in the past, in the Hindu society, someone who is qualified, a man who is qualified, can marry more than one wife. But one has to be in a position to be able to maintain more than one wife. I always remember the Sultan of Brunei. There we went one time through there, and the devotees were showing that the Sultan of Brunei, he had the three wives. Of course, he's Muslim. He had three wives, and each one of them had a palace. They had a palace each. He was so rich. At one stage, the Sultan of Brunei was the richest man in the world because of the oil. Now he's been overtaken by all the new tech, high-tech guys. But he was for many years before, he was the richest man because of the oil from the Brunei. So he had many, three queens, and all had a palace. All were very rich, and all separately, and he was maintaining. Of course, the very famous personality who had more than one wife is who? Krishna. Krishna is a very famous personality. He had 8 principal wives, but then he married 16,100 princesses that were kept captive in the place of Banasura. Isn't it? Banasura. He captured so many princes and he just kept them like in a harem. And so they were so much in anxiety, and so somehow the message got to Krishna. And then Krishna came and killed this Banasura and then liberated these princesses. But they said to him, well, now we've been kept by another man. Who will marry us now? What will our future be? And so Krishna very kindly, all right, I will marry all of you. So it is and he arranged for them to be bathed and dressed nicely. A nice description in Srimad Bhgavatam and Krishna book. And then on a big grand procession, he brought them back to Dwarka. And before they even arrived, by his mystical power, he had palaces for each one of them to go into. He didn't just cram them all in together, or you have to live together in one room. No, he had a palace for each one, he mystically. And of course now, to see 16,108 wives is not so easy. One time, many years ago, when I was a young brahmachari, we were sitting talking about this, and they'd say if one man was married to 16,108 wives, how long would that, if he wanted to see one wife every day, how many years would that be just to go around? And I think we worked out, someone did the mathematics on the calculator or something, and it was like 53 years, I seem to remember that figure. Just to see one wife for one day, if you've got 16,108 wives, you have to spend 53 years in seeing each one of them for one day, and then you can come back to the original one. So the wives wouldn't be very happy. I'm seeing my husband one day in 53 years, and we'd be dead already. So, of course, what did Krishna do? He expanded himself 16,108 times to be in each and every one of them. There's a nice description of Narad Muni one time visiting Krishna, and he decided to go and visit Krishna in every place practically. And he saw that Krishna was with one queen acting in one way, with another queen acting another way. These are separate personalities expanded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be with each and every queen. So we have some personalities who can be like that. Generally it's not, of course, Prabhupada said in the Kali Yuga, we have to follow the example of Lord Ram, Ekapatni Brata, means just the one wife. In the Kali Yuga, if one can just have one wife is a great achievement. And if one wife can have one husband is a great achievement. And actually in the 12th canto, as mentioned in the Kali Yuga, if someone can maintain family even for a short time in the Kali Yuga, as Kali Yuga progresses, he will be such an achievement. You can keep the family together, you can look after the family, they're patting him on the back, you are such a great person for being able to do like that. But we can see how difficult it's becoming. Everything's becoming so expensive now to live in the world. You can hardly afford to do anything, even to get some food. I was just telling the story, and I was giving a class, one temple of Sudama Brahmana, who went to school with Krishna. He was Brahmin family, and he went to the ashram with Krishna and Balaram, the Sandipani Muni ashram. Some years ago, we had a meeting, GBC meeting in Ujjain. Bhakti Charumaj was the host, and one day he said, I'm taking you all to the ashram of Sandipani Muni. It's nearby there, just an hour or something, hour and a half. And so we all went to the ashram of Sandipani Muni there. Very beautiful place by the rivers there. And that's where Sandipani Muni taught Krishna Balaram. Sudama was also there, many other students were there. So they were very good friends. But Sudama Brahmana, later on, of course, when they went out, Krishna, after Vrindavan, Mathura, then he went to Dwarka, and then he lived very opulently, became king. And he was very rich. But Sudama Brahmana is mentioned, he liked to live very simply. He was very austere Brahmana. He was very renounced. And Prabhupada explains that, or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives explanation that there are two types of devotee renunciates, or even Brahman renunciates. One is just neutral to the world, just carrying on, just neutral, doesn't care much about it, just carrying on. The other one is just averse, doesn't want to even look at it, doesn't want to be entangled in it, doesn't want to indulge in it, just very averse. So he said that, he explained that Sudama Brahmana was like that, very averse. And so he kept himself very poor, took the vow of the poverty, and so much so he got married, and they hardly had any money for food. They were some days not eating. They had their old clothes all torn. They had to sew it and everything like that. They lived in an old hut with a leaky roof. So one day his wife said to him, look, we're so poor. I know you're a Paka Brahmana, everything, but we need some money for our ashram. So why don't you ask Krishna? So he went to... so he didn't have anything. He said, if I go to Krishna, he's a big king now, and I have to offer him something. When I come, I'm the guest, I have to offer the king something. So we haven't got anything. Even as the description is, he went and begged some rice, and even that was like flat rice, chip rice, very low class. Not high quality, but that's the only thing he could get. So he went and he walked. Now that place, I was giving the class, and I've been there. That place of Sudama, he had a village there. There's a place in India, in Gujarat, on the coast, and it's a place now it's called Porbandar. Porbandar is about, from Dwarka, it's probably about 100 kilometres. You can go very easily by the car or by the bus. We took the bus. And it's not so far from when you go, if you ever go to visit Dwarka Dam. From the Dwarka Dam you can go, a very beautiful trip there. Somnath is the next town down, very old pastime, the place where Krishna left the world. And Balaram left the world is nearby Somnath also. If you ever go on the pilgrimage, you can see all these places. Prabhas Chetra and all the different places. One temple is made there of where Krishna is there, and he's there with his one leg over the other, one over the knee, this side over that side. And Jara, who threw the arrow, who shot the arrow, is there paying obeisance. A very beautiful temple. But near there, Porbandar is very famous these days. It is known as the birthplace of Mahatma Gandhi. That generally people know about that. Birthplace of Mahatma Gandhi. When you go there, there's these houses restored, the old house, and there's a museum there, you can go there. And also, but in the middle of the town, now formerly this town was called Sudama Puri. It was just a small little village, and it was called Sudama Puri. Well, later on it was called Sudama Puri. And there's one temple there, that's there. When you go inside, there's a deity of Sudama in the middle of the town. And so when you go there, Sudama's there. So he went there, and of course, when Sudama went to see Krishna, Krishna was with Rukmini. They were just talking, and then they saw him. He just came inside, and they just stood up to greet him. They paid their obeisances. They brought him. They sat him on their throne. Krishna was washing his feet, massaging his feet. Rukmini Devi was offering incense and doing like a chamra, like that. Krishna was massaging his feet. He was king. He was Bhagavan, but he had so much affection for Sudama, and also he had affection for the Brahmana class in general, that he was acting like that. And so This I'm a little bit digressing from this story, but it's interesting that how Krishna can do so many things and in the point of so many wives, but yet he's so humble. And this is another point that's made here. Krishna himself shows great humility to the Brahmins. So he stayed overnight, and Sudama stayed overnight there in the palace, but before he was stayed, Krishna said, I think that you have brought something here divine, he could say. I think you have brought some offering, but you are not offering. And Sudama was very embarrassed. He thought, I don't want to give this, low quality rice to Krishna. He was in the big palace. He didn't want to give it to Krishna, but Krishna just saw it tied up. He had it tied in his cloth, and he just opened it. He snatched it. And he just was eating. And very nice rice, very beautiful rice, very wonderful. And he was going to take some more, but Rukmini stopped him, and he said that she said that if already he's going to have so much reward from you taking the prasadam like that. If you take any more, then I'm representing the goddess of fortune. I won't be able to supply. So please, my Lord. So anyway, he stayed overnight, and then the next day he got up to go back. He was at that time just walking, so it took a few days. And then Krishna accompanied him on the road for some time. And it's that Krishna, when the Sudama Brahmana was going on the road back to his village, Krishna accompanied him and he bowed down. And Sudama thought that, I actually came here to beg some charity. And normally, the kings give to the Brahmanas. For some reason, Krishna didn't give me anything. He must know that I'm averse actually to these things. And if he gives me, then maybe I'll become entangled. So actually he was so overwhelmed having the darshan of Krishna, but in the back of his mind he was thinking like that, and the acharyas explained like that he said, Krishna has done me a big favor not giving me anything. Even though my wife may complain, but still, Krishna has done a very big favor. So when he went back, and when he arrived back, he couldn't recognize, have I taken a wrong road? Is it a wrong road here? The whole place had transformed. There were all palaces everywhere. It was just a small village, very poor village. And all of a sudden, there's all palaces everywhere. And not only that, there were denizens who looked like demigods and demigoddesses. They were walking around, and there was a group of them coming forward. They were playing on the musical instruments. They were singing like Gandharvas and Apsaras, and coming forward, throwing the flower petals. So then he was saying, who are these people? He didn't recognize. Who are these people coming here? And then he saw one lady coming, and she had a garland. Who is this lady? And she had a garland to put on him. And then one of the ones who were singing, she said, this is your wife. This is my wife. He couldn't even recognize her. Her body changed, and she became like a demigoddess, very beautifully attired. And she came out of a building that was like a palace. It used to be where his hut was. So he was all confused. And then she came forward. And actually he was thinking that Krishna has done this. At that moment, when they told, this is your wife coming, and the acharyas explained that his thinking was that Krishna has done this. Krishna has done all this. He's, just that little offering. And he must want me to have this. I'm very averse to having these things, but Krishna, he must want me to have all this. So therefore, because Krishna has arranged it, who am I to not accept it? Even though I don't like to be entangled in the world. But Krishna has arranged, obviously. And as soon as she came forward, then it is mentioned that his body transformed into a very young, handsome, like God. And then all of a sudden, by Krishna's mystical power, he transformed him, just like Krishna knows everything. He's in everyone's heart. And actually the description is that when his wife went to bed, and all the residents of that village went to bed in their old huts and everything, they woke up the next morning and they were in the palaces, looking different. His wife couldn't even recognize us. Where is this? And so it was a very wonderful story. So Sudama Brahmana, he accepted all this. So such is the mercy of Krishna, such is the humility of the Supreme Personality of God, such is the love and affection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to his devotees. So we see that is exemplified in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this humility This is very much mentioned in today's verse in Trinadapi Sunicana, Tarorapi Saishna. But it's a very interesting story here that the other queens of King Chitraketu become jealous. He's going to neglect us. So they conspired together and poisoned the baby. He was just a baby. Poisoned the baby and he was killed. And so, of course, the queen was crying uncontrollably. He was crying. And then after some time, Narad Angira came. We said that this will be your sukha and also your dukkha. And so, after he calmed down, I think then they bring the baby back, and the baby was talking to him. It's for philosophy, everything like that. Yeah. Narad brought the soul back of that baby. And so the baby started talking philosophy. Where your mother and father? Which mother and father you are? I've had so many mothers and fathers, I remember. And so the baby was preaching philosophy. So because of that, the king became, Narad Chitraketu became very detached, and Narad Muni was preaching more philosophy to him, and so much so I told him to do some tapasya and some worship, and he was able to get the darshan of Lord Sankarshan, I think on the front cover of this Bhagavatam. Oh, no. Used to be on the front cover of this. That's another one. Yeah. It looks like when Dhruva Maharaj goes back. But anyway, on the front cover before we have a beautiful picture of a painting of Chitraketu and how Lord Sankarshan comes, a very beautiful form of the Lord, and he came to give darshan of Maharaj Chitraketu. And so he was blessed, and Maharaj Chitraketu became very, very advanced devotee. He came the leader of the Vidyadharas, if I remember correctly. The Vidyadharas are those who are perfect by their knowledge, and Maharaj Chitraketu became the leader. But he was a very great devotee, getting the mercy of Lord Sankarshan. He was just flying around. At this particular time, he was flying around in a golden. I think the description was the golden aeroplane, and he was traveling through the universe, very exalted devotee. But interestingly enough, here Prabhupada mentioned, I was just looking back, Chitraketu was cursed by Parvati, and Prabhupada does explain that in the next life he had to come back as Vritrasura. But the Lord's plan was to bring him back home, brilliantly effulgent airplane given to him by Lord Vishnu, Lord Sankarshan, surrounded by siddhas and charanas. So he was traveling around like that, the head of the Vidyadharas, it said, the head of the Vidyadharas. So this was his position, but he somehow, he became a little proud. Devotees, one can be a devotee, an exalted devotee, and he became a little proud, as I think Prabhupada describes here. I can't exactly find it now, I just saw it just before. Yes, that he became a little proud because he got the darshan of Lord Sankarshan. So he became very exalted devotee, but he maintained that a little bit of mood of pride because he felt very special. He got special mercy. He got special mercy from Lord Sankarshan. Got special mercy, so he felt himself a little bit special. We have to be careful about these things, even as devotees. Generally, the materialists, they're not humble at all. They're very puffed up, arrogant, condescending. But the devotee, we're coming from that background, and we have pride, we have all these things. But in the process of following the Krishna consciousness, one becomes purified gradually. Generally, it takes some time. Of course, it can be immediately if one surrenders totally, gives up all other attachments, physically and mentally, and within the heart. But generally, it takes some time. So still some what's called vestiges of previous mentality and previous habits can be there. And so, devotee. But so, it's especially so in beginning devotees. Now, Chitraketu rose to the position, not beginning devotee, he was very exalted devotee, but he had a little bit of a streak of a little pride because he thought he got the special mercy of Lord Sankarshan, as we said. And so he maintained that. Now, Lord Sankarshan, of course, he knew of this. I mean, the Lord is in everyone's heart. He knew this, and he knew that Chitraketu was an exalted devotee, but he had a little bit of pride. So he used this whole situation, as explained here, to create some leela, and externally may be seen as maybe some little bit disturbing leela, that he's exalted. Why he had to put Maharaj Chitraketu through this, getting cursed, coming back as Vritrasura. Sometimes devotees think like that. Why? And especially beginning devotees or peripheral devotees, they quite often think like that. Why God has done, I'm God's devotee, but then now all of a sudden I suffer. Why God did that to me? I'm trying to be a good devotee, but I'm getting some suffering. I remember one time in Jakarta, I was giving a lecture, and some husband and wife came to the temple. He was a big executive in one big, huge factory, and his wife came and she said, this is a new factory, can you come with the devotees to give the blessings to the new factory? So I said, we can come there. And so we went there and we did kirtan, we did normal program that devotees did. So everything went nicely, prasadam, everything was nice, everyone was happy. But then after a few days, she came to the temple. She wasn't there, that was the husband's work, she worked separately. So she came, Swami, said, I don't know why Krishna has treated me so badly. I arranged program so nicely at the factory, and now somehow, after even doing all these things, I've lost my job. She said, I've lost my job. Why Krishna did that? I've lost my job. So I tried to explain philosophically sometimes, but she was so upset she couldn't listen to anything. But after 1 week, she came back again. Oh, Swami, I'm very happy now. Now I've got better job. We have very little faith. I was trying to explain to her about it. You have to have faith in Krishna. Sometimes Krishna does these things because he sees something in you that needs to be corrected. And Krishna is like a father. The father, he is within everyone's heart. He knows what is the best for the children. Just like the little child can come to the dad, Daddy, I want more ice cream. No, you had enough ice cream. No, Daddy, give me ice cream. No, if you have more, you become sick. No, Daddy, give me the ice cream. No, I'm not giving you ice cream because you'll be sick. You're a bad daddy. I hate you, Daddy. I want no other daddy. The children can be like that. So actually, when we're neophyte devotees, we're like children. So that's like this lady, she was neophyte. But she, pious, she did the good program, but her faith was not very strong. Some little trouble, immediately she was criticizing God. Why you did like that? Who is this Krishna doing? Who does Krishna think he is? Treat me like this after I arranged everything in the program. So we can think like that. That's like a little child. Little children act like that. 1 minute they're happy, next minute they're angry at mummy, they're angry at daddy. You're a bad mom, you're a bad dad. I hate you. 1 minute you get the gulab jamun and I love you so much. The next minute, I hate you, you didn't give it. They're just changing all the time. And the children very happy, running, and then something happens, and then they're crying like anything, and it can be within 1 second, isn't it? Within 1 second. So we're like that. In the beginning stages, we can be like that. We've been chosen, but I was explaining, see, you didn't have much faith. I was explaining to that lady that you have to have faith in Krishna. You have to have faith in Krishna, that he will look after you, and whatever happens is his mercy on you. This is more mature devotee. More mature devotee. When you become more mature, if you're immature, then you will think so many things. But you become more mature, you understand things very... Just like I was telling Sudama. Sudama thought that Krishna didn't give, and he went there to get the charity. He didn't ask, but in the back of his mind, normally the kings just give the charity without even asking, especially brahmanas. But he didn't think badly of Krishna. Actually, he was in ecstasy. He could have thought badly. I came here, Krishna didn't even give me anything. All right, maybe I gave flat rice, but at least he can give me some bag of rice or something. He gave nothing. What type of person is he? He could have said all bad things, spread bad rumors of Krishna. I went there, this is a charlatan king. He could have said so many things, but he didn't. He understood because very high devotee, very exalted devotee. He poverty stricken, but he liked it. Now, there's one story in regards to Sudama that when they were in the ashram, they went out in the forest. Krishna and Sudama, and they were collecting firewood for the guru, or for the guru's wife actually. And when they were there, a big storm came, very, very big storm, and it was flooding everywhere. Very quickly the water came up, they had to climb in a tree. So before that, the guru's, Guru Patni, the wife of the guru, had given Sudama some chickpeas, some little bit of chickpeas. I think Krishna Balaram were there, and so he was high in the tree, and Krishna and Balaram were in the lower tree, branches, and the water was coming up. And so secretly, Sudama was just eating the chickpeas. And Krishna Balaram said, "We're hungry too, why don't you give us some chickpeas?" No, she gave to me only. You can't have any. So he was kind of joking, but just keeping them. Krishna tried to snatch, but he was just keeping, "No, you can't have any." So it was just like children play like that. So it is said because he did that like that, Krishna kept him, get a little reaction, he kept him poor. But Sudama liked it anyway, because he was like that. His nature was like that. So it just suited Sudama. So that was a little bit of reaction. But that's just a story in passing. But here we find so many lessons in this section, as I said, of Maharaj Chitraketu, that he was a little proud. You have to be careful of pride. You can when one is, the pride comes from and then when one's proud, then one has got to be envious, and one will commit offence. Offence comes from being proud. Prabhupada explains in the second count of the Bhagavatam and some purport that first of all there's ignorance, and then with ignorance you don't know your position, you get puffed up, and when you get puffed up, then you've got to be envious because you're proud of your position. There's always someone who's got better than you. You can think yourself very strong, very wealthy. There's always someone with more money, someone who's more strong, someone who's more knowledgeable. So therefore, you have to be envious. If you're proud, you have to be envious. And when you're envious, you're going to become angry because of frustration, and then you're going to say bad things or do bad things against that person you're envious of. So pride leads to, it comes from ignorance. Ignorance, as Prabhupada explains, is like a mathematical equation. Ignorance, pride, envy, frustration, anger, commit offences. So it's one thing after the other. So one has to be mindful. The acharyas explain all these things very nicely. So Prabhupada explained all these things very nicely. Here we read due to this. But Krishna took advantage of the situation. He was affectionate. Lord Sankarshan was affectionate to Maharaj Chitraketu. Even though he was a little proud, still he was his devotee. He was a golden devotee. So he kind of arranged things because he wanted him to come more quickly back to Godhead. This was the position. So Krishna had arranged these things. Sometimes we think, why does Krishna do all these things? He generally does these things like Haridas Thakur, Prahlad Maharaj. Why Krishna did this thing to Prahlad Maharaj, where his father was practically trying to kill him so many times. Haridas Thakur was whipped. Why he did that? These are exalted devotees. We read Prabhupada, it was just on the Prabhupada disappearance. We were telling the story, right when Prabhupada took the sannyas on the same day, he got gored by a bull. When he was in the Loy Bazaar area, the bull came, just a bull, they wander around everyone, just a bull came over and gored him. So, one can think why they did that, why Krishna allowed that to happen. Krishna has his plan, and generally very exalted devotees are given these types of reactions. It's under Krishna just to show how exalted devotees, what their mentality is when bad things happen to them. They see it as Krishna's mercy. And Krishna does sometimes very extreme bad things, but he gives them the power to tolerate it and not even be disturbed by it. Just like with Haridas Thakur, he was whipped, and then they threw him in the Ganga, but he didn't die. He just was washed down, and then he came up on the bank. Lord Chaitanya just happened to come there, and Haridas Thakur, they were whipping me. I didn't feel a thing. And Lord Chaitanya turned around and said, that's because I took the whips. I took the whips on my back. And also in that one Purana, Nrsinga Purana, is mentioned when Hiranyakashipu was on the lap of Nrsingadev, he was so much bliss. He was looking up, he just remembered his former life, Jai Vijay in the spiritual world. He was in ecstasy. When Lord Nrsinga was tearing apart, didn't feel a thing. He felt in ecstasy. Normally, I'm being ripped apart, the lion is killing me. you'll be, so much pain. But he didn't feel, not only didn't he feel a thing, he was in ecstasy looking at, and he was remembering his part just at that moment. So the Lord empowers. So Maharaj Chitraketu was empowered by the Lord, and he was very humble. Later on we'll read in this chapter. He just accepted the curse of poverty, very humbly. But he shouldn't have criticized in the way he did. This was due to his little bit pride. His intention was not to criticize, but he laughed very loudly. He saw Lord Shiva sitting there. There's all these great sages there. And it was like a Bhagavatam class. Let's say some Grihastha, a devotee, gets up here, sits up here, he's giving the Bhagavatam class, and he invites his wife to sit on his lap, and he's got his hand around and he's giving the class. It'll be a very strange thing, isn't it? Normally we don't see that. It's not considered appropriate. The Grihastha, he's sitting giving the Bhagavatam class, and he's got his wife on his lap, and he's cuddling his wife while he's speaking on the Bhagavatam. Everyone, who is this fellow? Who is this fellow think he's sitting on with his wife? So no one does like that. But this was Lord Shiva. And who was his wife? Parvati. These are special personalities. And actually, Chitraketu, when he saw that, and not only that, but one thing they're sitting with the wife, but all the sages are there. These are very sober, very advanced souls, and he's right in front of them, and he's speaking transcendental knowledge and on this whole situation. They weren't saying anything. The sages weren't saying anything about it. They could have just got up and left. Just like if I was saying, some Grihastha comes here, sits here with his wife, probably everyone would get up and go out. We can't take this, we're leaving. But they didn't say, they were just listening very intently, because this was Lord Shiva, and that was Parvati. This is the Yoga Maya originally, who is Lord Shiva, practically like Vishnu. So you don't, and the sages weren't saying, so actually Maharaj Chitraketu made a mistake. He laughed. He was in his plane, and he looked down and he saw it, he laughed, and he was thinking how wonderful Lord Shiva is, how wonderful Parvati is, that they can do like that. He wasn't thinking offensively. But then he thought, well, others may hear about this and may criticize him. And so in an almost sarcastic way, he will, you've already read, because now Parvati is going to go. So you've already read what he says to Lord Shiva in a kind of a sarcastic way, that, you're sitting here and how great is Lord Shiva. But it was like a kind of a joke, but almost like a chastisement as well. And he said that, thinking himself that I'm going to do it in this way as an instruction to Lord Shiva, an instruction to Parvati also. I'm going to instruct them that I'm just going to point out that I'm not thinking maliciously. I'm not thinking maliciously here, but just as an instruction to them that, so others will see this example and may imitate them. But here Prabhupada makes a big point that it was not Chitraketu Maharaj's position to even do that. He shouldn't have done it. And Prabhupada actually speaks quite strongly on that. He never meant to insult Lord Shiva. Still, he should not have criticized him in that way. He should not have criticized him, even though the Lord was transgressing social custom. It's not in his position. You have to be very careful how you deal with very exalted, just like the sun. Prabhupada gives the example of the sun is very powerful. Who says bad things about the sun? I mean, the sun is purifying urine, all sorts of things. Sun so powerful can purify urine. And so the very powerful, it's not in your position to criticize them. If someone has to say something, but who's going to say anything to Lord Shiva, then generally what we do when there's very senior devotees, we ask if we've got some concerns, we ask other senior devotees to speak to who are on the same level. Not that you in your junior position, unless it's very outrageous thing. But then you can say. But generally like that there was, and interesting, as I said, the sages weren't saying anything themselves. They could have said something, but they didn't. So he should have seen that also. Well, they're not saying anything, or better I don't say anything. But he took it on himself because of that pride. He thought he could do it. And Prabhupada actually goes on to say he thought he was a better controller of the senses than Lord Shiva, that he could instruct Lord Shiva. Don't try to chastise or criticize more advanced personalities, especially Lord Shiva, or try to correct them. It's not your position to try to correct them, thinking you know more than them. Don't be like that. Even you may know more than them. Maybe you're the most learned person. Maybe you're a scholar. Maybe a pundit. Maybe you know more, actually know more, but it's not your position. They're very exalted devotees. Just like Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, very exalted personality. I think his anniversary of his disappearance is coming up. But he wasn't very literate, but he was the most exalted devotee. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was like a walking encyclopedia. But he never tried to correct Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji. You know, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had so much knowledge, but he never tried to correct. He said, my guru. And so he was very humble. So here Prabhupada says this one, Trinada Pisunichana Tarora Pisahishnana, Amanina Manadina Kirtaniya Sarahari. This verse, one should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind. Lord Chaitanya says, two things are very important in devotional advancement. Chanting Hare Krishna and try to chant offenselessly. Sadhu Sangha, association with devotees. The next verse, he says, and also, this verse, Trinadapi Sunichana, you wear it like a necklace around your neck. The little necklace is always around your neck. You have this verse around your neck. When you're chanting, when you're associating devotees, this. And what is this verse? Chant in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. You can't get more low than the straw in the street. The straw is very flat. Everyone walks on it. Right? Everyone walks on the straw. More tolerant than the tree. Tree just there in the hot weather, the cold weather, the rain. These are nicely, acharyas give a commentary on these verses from Shikshashtakam. More tolerant than devoid of all sense of false prestige and ready to offer all respect to others. False prestige. Now, generally, in the Bhagavatam is mentioned, what is false prestige? Bhagavatam gives four categories. Janmaishwara Shrutashribi Edamanamanapuman Naivahatim Tumtumkam Fama Kinchana Gocharam Janma Aishwar Shrutasibi. There are many categories, but four main categories. Janma, you're born in a big family, high Brahmin family, aristocratic family, big family name. One can very easily become puffed up about that, and this is prestigious. If you're born in a big family, you've got the family's big name, that's very prestigious. Everyone would like to have that. And one can get very puffed up because of that. And Janma Aishwara, you've got a lot of money, you've got a lot of possessions. Everyone wants that. Everyone wants money, possessions. And if you've got that, that's very prestigious. You can be the lowest of the low, but if you've got a lot of money, you're very nice, isn't it? So this is prestigious. Janmaishwara Shruta, you're very learned, academic. BA, MA, PhD, very learned. This is all the result of kriti, pious activity. Very learned person. And Shruta Shribi, very handsome, very beautiful. Everyone wants to be beautiful. The ladies want to be beautiful. The men want to be handsome. So this is prestigious if you're a very beautiful person, if you're a handsome person. And if you have more than one, you're a handsome, beautiful, and also you're educated, and also maybe you've got a lot of money, and also you come from a good family, you've got all these things together, very prestigious. But this is called false prestige because it's temporary. Just temporary. You can't remain beautiful forever, you can't remain handsome. You know, generally in the youth, the girl is considered very beautiful between maybe 16 and 20 or 30. After that, the men also handsome, they like to be strong with muscles. Prabhupada one time in his room, he joked, he said, when I was young, I used to eat so much halva and I was very strong, I had muscles. And he said, now I am old, he said, he went like this, just like flat tire. Flat tire. He said, men, they like to have the V shape, the muscles, the V. But as you get older, it becomes the A. From V to A. You get the wrinkles, you get the grey hair, can't see anymore, can't hear anymore. So many things happen. So how long these things can last? And you know, people get wealth and they can lose it just like that. So many stories like that. And beauty can be gone. You're learning sometimes. Now a big thing these days is dementia. People can't even remember their own name anymore, can't remember their relative. So you can lose your learning, you can lose so many things. Lose your family standing. Some people cast out from the family, who knows. So this is all called false prestige, not real. Prestige actually is you're a devotee of Krishna. This is prestigious. But you have to be careful not to be puffed up about that. It's like Chitraketu. Chitraketu, prestigious, great devotee. Lord Sankarshan's darshan, but he became a little puffed up. So, and ready to offer all respect to others. It's one thing you're humble, but meaning humble means you offer all respect to everybody else. You give respect. Even we don't feel like it, still. Just like all these things Prabhupada said, arranged everything, deities, and you come and you bow down. You give respect to Prabhupada. You give respect to Krishna Balaram. I remember when I was a new person just coming to the temple many decades ago, and after some time I brought my friend and he brought his girlfriend also, and we came for the Sunday feast program. And so we attended the kirtan and heard the talk, everything, and had nice prasadam. So when we were going outside, I asked her, so what did you think? Was it all right? And then, yeah, the boy said, yeah, it's very nice. And nice food, he said, nice food. And the girl said, yeah, very nice food. But one thing, she said, all this bowing down, all the time bowing down. Every minute, someone says something, what did they say? Jai, bow down. Jai, or bow down. Jai, bow down again. She said, all this bowing down is not a natural thing. Too much bowing down. But actually bowing down is actually you don't even feel like it, but it makes you humble. You don't like to give respect to you want everyone to bow down to you. I'm not bowing down to them. Why I bow down to him? He should bow down to me. Materialistic like that. So no one likes to bow down, but it's good for you. Bow down. I remember that boy George made that song, Bow Down Mister. Bow Down Mister. We all in the 80s, a long time ago. But bow down Mister, just bow down. We don't like to bow down, but it's good for us. Bow down to the Guru. And so at least externally we're feeling, and then gradually if you're following the process of Krishna Con, you become more purified. It will become naturally, you'll feel very humble. But be mindful, you're understanding all these instructions here. The Acharyas, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, especially in Madhurya Kandamani, gives what are the anartas and gives a good explanation. So along with your practice, you understand these things and avoid. But anyway, this whole incident here, we'll see now Parvati becomes very angry, we'll read tomorrow, and she curses him. But he took it very humbly. And it was the whole thing was arranged by Krishna to bring him back home more quickly. He said his time's up. He had to come back as Vritrasura, a demon, but very quickly he was killed. And he went, actually I remember reading, he went to be with Lord Sankarshan. Lord Sankarshan came to give him darshan. This is on earth. And came to give him darshan. And then when he went back home, back to Godhead, Lord Sankarshan, he has a Vaikuntha abode in the Vaikuntha. He went back there. That's the place he went. He went to Lord Sankarshan in the spiritual world. So, all's well that ends well, is the old saying. Ended good. But in the meantime, we can learn so many things. All right, thank you very much for attending the Srimad Bhgavatam class. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask? Or comments they want to make to today's verse? Sorry, maybe I went a bit longer. What time are you supposed to finish?
9.
About 9. Ooh. Okay. I'll do tomorrow because the Dhammadarastika so during Dhammadarastika month we go a little bit longer. But anyway, I won't go so long tomorrow. All right, so and thank you very much. I'll try to keep it more short tomorrow. Yes, any questions? Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Go Premanandi Hari.